time to wake up. We all need to wake up. Let's face it, most of us are sound asleep, completely wrapped up in our own lives, living in our little fantasy lands, oblivious to the problems of the real world around us. And so, my Ecomodernist soapbox rant today is aimed at all those humans who are sleepwalking through the 21st century. And it is blunt and to the point. Wake up. Let me start by addressing the climate deniers out there. Wake up. It's over. Man-made global warming is real. Period. Full stop. That conclusion is scientifically measurable based on data from highly accurate thermometers and other technologies with accumulated evidence going back over 800,000 years. It is a conclusion that has been reached independently, not just by climatologists, but by paleoclimatologists, geophysicists, geochemists, geologists, glaciologists, oceanographers, soil scientists, biochemists, biogeographers, ecophysiologists, ecological geneticists, mathematicians, and statisticians using computational analysis, mathematical modeling, Bayesian interference, and time series analysis. In fact, these same statisticians have concluded that the odds of the record amount of heat records that we have been experiencing on the planet being natural has been calculated to be about 650 million to 1. In short, unless you yourself are a climate scientist, there's nothing you could add to the debate. In fact, there is no debate. You have every right to be skeptical, but when you reject science based on your degree from Google University, you're way over your pay grade. And I hate to break this to you, but in reality, you're nothing but cogs in a vast corporate disinformation campaign. Just like big tobacco, the fossil fuel industry knew the real truth all along. And let me add this little news flash. Not only is man-made global warming real, but the latest data reveals that its intensity has exceeded even the most alarmist scientific predictions. The new projections published this month in the American Meteorological Society's Journal of Climate indicate a medium probability of surface warming of 5.2 degrees Celsius by 2100. Most probably that will range from 3.5 to 7.4 degrees increase. That's 2 to 3 times hotter than the scientists originally thought it would be. That's right. Let me repeat that again. That's 2 to 3 times hotter. Even an increase of 4 degrees would make the entire mainland United States uninhabitable, as most of the planet turns into desert. The environmentalists are right. We are in a slow motion existential emergency, and unless we stop business as usual in its tracks and swiftly move towards a sustainable world economy, the odds are that there will be no world economy. Hell, there might not be even a livable planet. Now here's my rant to my environmentalist friends out there. If you think you're off the hook, think again. You all need to stop dreaming and wake up. Our nut and berry picking days are over. If all of a sudden the over 4 billion urban dwellers on this planet all left to return to nature, in short order there would be no nature left to return to. If you say it's an existential emergency, then act like it's an existential emergency. In other words, would you all please stop being such a bunch of Luddites and stop getting in the way of the best technologies that we have to save us? I'm talking about nuclear power and GMOs. The scientists are telling us is that there is no evidence that GMOs are harmful to humans or the environment. And that is coming from 275 global science organizations worldwide that affirm the consensus for GMO food and crop safety. GMOs have improved the nutritional value of food, reduce both the use of pesticides and our carbon footprint substantially. And they are our only hope of adapting agriculture to deal with the substantially hotter and drier world that we are moving into. And when it comes to nuclear power, well, it's actually rated the safest and most efficient form of energy on the planet. Nuclear power makes up over half of the clean power in the United States alone. Closing down our nuclear plants in the middle of this climate crisis makes about as much sense as closing down fire hydrants next to a 4-alarm fire. And as for replacing nuclear power with renewables, there isn't a battery even on the drawing board anywhere that can fill the gap on any major grid where the sun is not shining and the wind is not blowing without completely breaking the bank. It's time to get a little more practical, I'd say, and go with what works. France has decarbonized its grid by roughly 80% with nuclear power, while its German neighbor to the north has sunk $800 billion into renewables over roughly the same time frame. And the only accomplishment that they have to show for it is to lead the EU in CO2 emissions for 2 out of the last 4 years, and to lead the EU in debts from coal pollution as well. What we're being asked to do is to gamble the climate on a theory with a bad track record based on technological advances that don't even exist, in the hopes that we might be able to figure it out later. Wake up! It's not a good bet. And before you start telling me about it, how I'm wrong because you've got it all figured out, just stop. The IPCC has already figured it out, and they have concluded that we will need at least triple the amount of nuclear power on this planet to deal with our current climate crisis. So the long and the short of it is this, that we already know nuclear power works, and 100% renewable doesn't. And my suggestions to all you nervous Nellies that are squawking about the so-called dangers of radiation lasting for 100,000 years is that you start worrying about the next 100 years and our chances of survival if we abandon nuclear power. And before you all start getting into your own rap about all the bought-off scientists, you need to think again. For that to work, all the world's scientists would have to be in on it. And then you have to ask yourself, who has the deepest pockets? And that would be the fossil fuel industry. And they have a long history of funding anti-nukers along with climate deniers to protect their bottom line. It's not for nothing that some of the same environmental organizations that are heralding the 100% renewable fantasy have a history of being in the pockets of the fossil fuel industry. So I'm asking you all again to wake up and start thinking for yourself, rather than simply regurgitating the same pablum that is being fed to you by your particular side of the ideological divide. And fight for a new and better science-based environmentalism that doesn't merely want to worship nature, but to actually save it, and us along with it. And to those of you who agree with me, I can only say this. The question is not whether the truth is on our side, but whether time is on our side. The answer lies with you.